I'm sometimes so amazed at my ability to internally whinge. The other day, I was driving to the airport, internally whinging about how tired I was going to be at the end of the night, which is incredible because I wasn't tired at that point. I was getting pre-upset about a physical sensation I wasn't even experiencing yet, and in fact, might not experience. And that's just a wonderful example of negative fortune telling, which is a cognitive behavioral therapy term where you predict a pessimistic future as if the outcome is certain. And what I thought was interesting was it wasn't even a particularly potent example of fortune telling. It was just fortune telling about being sleepy. But that was enough to ruin the present moment. So I tried to find something good about the present moment. And I thought about the fact that I was having this thought about tiredness in a 6-lane highway 50 meters beneath the city. Thousands of people are living their everyday lives on top of me, and they go about their day more or less unconscious of this entire subterranean network, just as I can drive through the tunnel and completely forget there is an entire world above me. Or the ocean. I mean, every single time I go through the Sydney Harbour Tunnel, the only thing I think about is whether or not going across the Harbour Bridge would have been slightly quicker. But what if I just took in the fact that, in a way, I'm sharing my commute with an entire colony of reef sharks and stingrays far enough below the surface to fit a radio tower, and never once have I died? I mean, some incredibly talented people 30 years ago physically constructed a literal tube under the sea just to help shave off about 90 seconds from my commute. So the least I could do is try and avoid constructing mental ways to be miserable in said tube. And it's interesting, I mean, every time the turnaround and satisfaction when you think like this is why I'm completely dedicated to mindfulness. The formula at its core is so simple. You suffer, you notice you're suffering, you attempt to reframe or embrace a sense of wonder about the present moment, and then you suffer less. And the skill we're cultivating is not to not suffer, but to notice we're suffering faster and get better at reframing and get better at simply being curious about what's happening around us. And then suffering less becomes a positive externality of going through these motions. Okay, so we're 2 weeks into this show, and it's obviously still in its nascent stages, but my God, I just wanted to say, you are the best. I mean, this transition into the podcasting world has been made so easy by all of your support. And I'm so delighted by how heavily you're participating in this journey. I mean, we talked about hate earlier this week, and Dave emailed in after that episode saying, if you look long enough and hard enough, you can find something to hate about anyone. However, the opposite is also true. You know, what a simple and beautiful little insight. This is the standard of community that we have here. So thank you, Dave. And also, equally as important, a shout out to Greg, who emailed me after the episode on cravings saying, I ate a whole bag of gummy bears on Monday as well. And that email came at an important time, Greg. It's just so comforting to know I'm not alone and there are others who fall prey to the siren call of ursine gelatin. Greg goes on to say, listening to this episode this morning will definitely remind me to pause before giving in to a craving today. A reminder that you can write in at any time. The pod email is overexamined@jonahprimo.com. And I have some other show updates. Interviews will be starting on Thursday next week, and there are some bangers to look forward to. But I also just want to say this isn't going to be exclusively an interview podcast. We're still going to do reflections, stories, listener emails. And another update, I've also started to film both the interviews and the solo episodes. So if a visual format appeals to you, it's all going to be up on YouTube at the Overexamined Life, and I'll put a link in the show notes as well. And another update based on multiple requests is I've released the work in progress theme tune on Spotify. So if you miss it, or if you're just interested to hear the full version, given many of you only heard the first 10 seconds about 200 times, the full version is now on my Spotify page, Jonah Primo, or you can search work in progress theme on your favorite music platform, and I've linked it in the show notes as well. And for those of you asking how to further support the show, there's no Patreon or merch or anything yet. It's still early days. But what you can do if you'd really like to help out this project is just leave a rating or a review if you're listening, or a like and subscribe if you're watching. In my opinion, you are supporting the show all you need to just by listening. But unfortunately, I have algorithmic AI to contend with, and the robots have very particular certain metrics that they're interested in. That being said, it's been a fantastic start. Again, it's been a little scary being out here without being under the umbrella of a big company, but I did wake up the other day to find the Overexamined Life charting in the top 5 health podcasts in Finland and Kenya. And when I saw that, it really put a spring in my step and completely renewed my belief in this project. Not because of numbers and chart watching and positive feedback loops, etc., but it made me realize that this mission of exploring life and struggling and being curious resonates all over the world. I'm often a little nervous about talking about my day-to-day, given that I have no idea if it's relatable to anyone else other than Aussie millennials. But this reminded me that it's not the details that matter, it's the ideas we're exploring, and it's the journey we're on together, which is a human journey. And there's no barrier to entry when it comes to the human journey because we're all human. Again, no matter where you are in the world or how old you are or anything else, we have so much more in common than we do have differences. And I don't know if my cynical self ever took that idea seriously, but now I have some small amount of empirical evidence for that lesson, which makes it feel all the more beautiful, but more importantly, all the more true. So to my loyal Finnish listeners, kiitos paljon. I learned that on YouTube. I hope I got it right. And to my Kenyan friends, asante sana. And I learned that from Rafiki in The Lion King, which is still one of my favorite movies of all time. And I rewatch it often. I mean, how can anyone forget when Rafiki helps Simba come of age and figure out who he really is, the birthright king of Pride Rock, singing Asante sana, squash banana, wewe nugu, mimi hapana, which, as I understand, directly translates in Swahili to thank you very much, squash banana, you are a baboon and I am not. And little known fact, Rafiki is actually a mandrill. So when he says he's not a baboon, he is actually telling the truth. I have more Lion King niche facts, but we'll save them for another time. So I'll be back on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. This is the Overexamined Life. I am a baboon. We are all baboons, just trying to do our goddamn best.